Welcome back to my live stream on YouTube, Facebook and Telegram. My name is Markus Herbert and today I'm talking about my vision of the 3 tents that Jesus gave to me. But how did this vision come about? After reading the pre-release of the book In the Power of His Strength, New Experiences with the Armor of God by my friend and author Frank Krause, I asked Jesus about my personal armor and if I could also have upgrades to it to better protect myself from the ongoing attacks of the devil and his dark forces. I strongly encourage you to ask Jesus himself about your armor. You will get answers from him. Of that, I'm absolutely convinced. The fact that I then got a more and more unfolding visions, which I then appropriately call the 3 tents, I had not expected so, and that this vision then was published in the book of Franks as chapter 8, also not. Sorry, but this book from Frank is actually only available in German. But Jesus has promised us the fullness. I cannot control the visions that God gives to me. These visions come at appropriate times, also at the inappropriate times. My eyes of the heart see mostly in a short period of time, 360 degrees in several dimensions at the same time, though that my mind is completely overwhelmed with it. That means for me, I must absolutely talk with Jesus further about it. Then I will get explanations from him what my eyes of the heart have seen and my ears have heard. In addition, the Holy Spirit gives me words of knowledge and wisdom, though that the vision unfolds more and more. Basically, I take the promise of God from Jeremiah 33:3, call upon me, and I will answer you, and will tell you great and incredible things that you do not know. For me personally, as a portal into the heavenly dimension. The vision starts. I was again on Mount Zion next to Jesus and asked him the question about the armor of God. Jesus made a hand gesture and immediately 2 angels came flying. We are going on another trip with the eagles to the land flowing with milk and honey. I will show you 3 tents there. Get on an eagle, Jesus commanded me. I climbed on an eagle and immediately the eagle flew after Jesus, who had climbed on the other eagle. This time our journey from Mount Zion went into a completely different direction than in my previous visions from the land flowing with milk and honey. Jesus revealed to me at that time that this land serves to provide us with earthly and heavenly goods today. So it makes sense, of course, that the individual armor of God are also to be found there. After some time of gliding, the eagles landed on a plateau. There were tents as far as my eyes could see. Each tent was different. Some tents were very large, some were small, some were magnificent, and some were nondescript. I asked Jesus, what are these tents, and especially why are there so many of them are here? These are the individual tents of the armor of God, including the weapons for each warrior of light who serves in my army. For everyone who follows me and has a mission of battle or prayer, there is a tent with the armor of God. I will show you 3 of the tents as examples. Now let us go to the first tent, Jesus replied. He walked for a while in this campground until we came to the tent that Jesus wanted to show me first. Above each tent entrance was a sign with an inscription, mostly in a language I did not know. and the tent to which Jesus specifically led me, the inscription was in German, so that I could read it. There it was written above the entrance, "Tent of God's armor for," plus a name that meant nothing to me. What struck me immediately was the, to put it kindly, desolate condition of the tent. The blanket was apparently normally covered the entrance to the tent, had been torn off, and was lying on the ground. I walked behind Jesus into the tent. "What do you see, Markus?" he asked me. I had to get used to dim light first and took my time to make out as much as I could hear before answering. "I see what appears to be some rusty weapons leaning against the tent wall. To the left, a rope, moth-eaten, and a table in front of me. On the table is something like a scroll. Unlike the other dust-covered things, the scroll is in good condition, as if it was put here recently." The scroll. "It is good for you to take time to see, Markus," Jesus replied to me. "The warrior of whom I attended this tent, unfortunately, very rarely comes here to be equipped and trained in the armor of God. Listening to a few sermons about it and praying a few times is not nearly enough to get a working and adapting armor, and, more importantly, to be trained in how to use that armor. For that matter, your tent looks the same until you get involved with the armor of God. You realize that without a functioning armor of God, you would not survive the battle. Your equipment and weapons became so much over the time that the entire inventory had to move to a larger tent. The scroll on the table is the living scroll of God's armor. It is far more than just an instruction manual. You asked me about the armor and became deeply involved with it. Also, you had asked for instructions in the use of the armor of God every day. This was a good prayer. Thus, your scroll of God's armor was able to connect to you more and more, just like your armor. This scroll, like everything here in the heavenly dimension, is alive. If this person, for whom this armor is meant, asked me for it with all his heart, all his soul, all his strength, and all his mind, this scroll will connect with this person, and the armor will be polished up again, and new life will come into it. Changing clothes in the front tent. But now, come with me. We will go together to your tent of the armor of God. We left that tent and continued walking until we came to a larger tent. There, my name was written above the entrance of the tent. Jesus pushed aside the blanket over the tent entrance and with a gesture invited me to enter this tent. This tent had a front tent with 2 baskets on the side. In one of these baskets were old clothes, and in the other basket were various pieces apparently of armor. Returning my questioning look, Jesus said, "To put on armor of God, you must first be stripped. From the undergarments, among other things, the mantles you wear under your armor, that were not meant for you and that others have put on you. Also, your own clothes that you thought were suitable for you. This appears first of all to your ego dresses. Only by asking me personally will you receive revelations about what is suitable for you and how to get rid of the unsuitable garments. If you have wrong undergarments, the armor of God will not hold and the armor will fall down off you. You will see the result in the other basket. Also, the previous versions of your armor end up here, which, due to your growth in faith, or because of the updated armor of the dark forces, they are outdated and therefore no longer useful, but now enter the inner tent of the armor of God. The curtain of sanctification. Instead of a blanket, there was a curtain of individual cords at the entrance to the inner tent. I don't really know how to describe it. These cords were of different colors and shining from within them. As I walked through, the cords touched my skin. I felt power emanating from them and strengthening me. When I had enough gone through, I turned questioning to Jesus, who in the meantime has also followed me into the inner tent. Jesus smiled and said, "These cords are also alive, of course, like everything here in this dimension. Every time you enter this tent, these cords give you my power and strength, courage, perseverance, faith, and much more. How God's armor benefit to you if your character is not sanctified by me?" But now look around here in this inner tent, Markus. Advanced awareness. In contrast to the dusty first tent, everything shown here. The tent walls, the tent ceiling, and even the ground under my feet shone, similar to what I had experienced during my trips to the heavenly Jerusalem. Leaning against the tent wall, there was a variety of weapons, bows and arrows, a crystal sword and a blue sword, many more swords and other weapons of which I cannot think of suitable names. I also saw a table with a lot of small parts in front of me. Where is my armor, Jesus asked him. You already have the armor on you. Here in the tent it is visible. Look down at yourself, Jesus told me. Now my eyes were open. I could see the magnificent armor of God. Before that, the armor has been hidden from me. In addition, I now perceived some angel in the tent who greeted me joyfully. Jesus continued, outside of this tent, your armor is hidden by a mantle, as you had also daily asked for the mantle of humility. Praying for this special mantle was also a very good prayer. The mantle of humility is like a stealth mantle that hides the armor in the invisible world. It also hides the weapons that you carry just suitable for my works prepared for you. This mantle of humility is directly from me, and only I can put it on or take it off from you. All other mantles you can take off yourself and also put on again, or an angel does this for you. One of the angels here is an armor and weapons carrier angel who accompanies you and gives or replaces more parts of the armor of God or weapons as needed. If you had to carry all the weapons that belongs to a mission, including the armor that goes with them, you would not be able to move. Compare David in 1 Samuel 17, 38 through 39. On one side of the tent are other mantles that I have given to you. If necessary, one of the angels will dress you in one of these mantles. For example, you have one mantle at a time that matches your mission in the courts of heaven. Each of these mantles has been woven from my righteousness. Without one of these mantles, you could not even enter the heavenly court. Updates and upgrades. Can you give me an example for an update of my armor? I asked Jesus, amazed at what I was seeing here. Jesus turned to me and carefully took the helmet of salvation from my head. He placed it on the table and told an angel to bring in the previous version from the basket in the front tent. The angel did this immediately, bringing the old helmet and giving it to Jesus. He put it on a table for comparison, so that both helmets were next to each other. Jesus explained to me, the old helmet is more like the helmet from the Roman period, as most Christians imagine it. It shimmers like bronze and it's quite dented. This helmet cannot withstand the current attacks of the enemy with fear and anxiety on all frequencies. These frequencies waves simply pass through this old helmet. The new helmet of salvation, shimmering gold, is double-walled. In between is living water. Since this helmet is alive, it can also adapt to future attacks of the enemy on your mind. The helmet has other multi-dimensional parts, but you would not understand them at present. Jesus put the helmet back on me while the angel disposed of the old helmet. Just by Jesus touching that helmet, it now glowed much stronger than before. Returning my questioning look, Jesus said, "This was just another update by me. Again, I can only explain this to you at this time to the extent that it makes your thoughts focus on me better and faster." "Thank you so much, Jesus," I joyfully replied, "especially that I come back here anytime and you can teach me more things regarding your armor." Jesus replied to me, "Each warrior of light must come to his individual tent of God's armor to receive his upgrades and to be instructed by me how to use it. It is not enough to listen to testimonies from others." The shoe rack. "But now look to your left," Jesus told me. "What do you see there?" I turned to my left and noticed a shoe rack with several pairs of shoes nicely lined up. Since there are all kinds of shoes at that rack, I suppose that one pair of shoes with readiness to preach the gospel of peace is not enough to follow you, I replied to Jesus. "That is true. Let me explain to you with some examples what you need the shoes for. There are specially high and sturdy shoes here for you to step on snakes and scorpions. See Luke 10:19. Going onto this terrain of snakes and scorpions without the proper shoes can cause you injuries even in the visible area, Jesus said to me. Yes, I can verify that from my own painful experience. This happened to me once and I had problems with my left foot for a long time afterwards. I confirmed what Jesus revealed to me. He continued, But now, about these splendid shoes next to them. These are of the kind that the father gave to his prodigal son, or rather his son who has found again. Luke 15:22. These are the Father's shoes. With these shoes you can walk with the Father in the heavenly realm, much like Adam and Eve could in the Garden of Eden before they fall into sin. Then, there are desert shoes here. These are of the kind that the Israelites were during their 40 years of walking in the desert. They were so good that they did not wear out or tear. See Deuteronomy 29:4. This kind of shoes enables you today to come out of the desert to your land flowing with milk and honey, and to get it. Right next to you, you see shoes of the kind Moses wore. Acts 7:33. These are shoes to take off when you, like Moses at that time, step on holy ground. They lead you to a holy place so that you can take them off there. Jesus finished his excursion through the shoe rack. There were more pairs of shoes, but Jesus now turned back to the table in front of us. War on the web and the power of love. Jesus took another piece from the table in his hand that looked like the cube with permanently changing colors. Although this does not like it, this is a weapon that will protect you in the digital world. What an absurd idea! A weapon armor from a Roman area would be helpful to you today in the digital world of the 21st century. Since you are spreading visions and messages from me on the internet, you need a suitable protection, including the cyber angels you ask for. This cube is connected to the internet and ensures, among other things, that only those people see and hear it whom the Holy Spirit has prepared accordingly. Otherwise, this seed cannot sprout and bear fruit, Jesus further explained to me. Jesus put the cube back on the table and gestured me to continue looking around. Then, in the center of the tent, in a glass case, I noticed a brightly shining object that has roughly the shape of a heart. What is that brightly shining object in the glass cabinet? I asked Jesus. He looked at me, visibly pleased at my discovery of this glass cabinet. This glowing heart is the most powerful weapon of all. The shining heart is connected to Father's love. You were already in my Father's heart. With just the way to the Father's heart had massively changed you, and you faced the judgment of love. These were conditions for Father's loving heart to connect with your heart. The more you go to Father's heart, the more this shining heart connects with you. No bastion of enemy can withstand this weapon. The heart transplantation that you saw in one of the visions of God, the Father's heart, is also part of it. Father's love is transforming you more and more. Since you became involved with my Father and his heart, the process of transformation began within you. But it is not yet complete. Father's love shatters every bastion of the enemy, no matter how strong it is. As you become more and more the Father's love, this will also draw other people to God's Father heart. However, it depends on their free will whether they get involved or not. The tent of Judge Gideon. I was still processing all the details Jesus had shown me when Jesus took me by the hand and went back to the tent side. I still have to show you the third tent. Look up the slight hill there toward the first tent, which is just ahead. Jesus asked me with a gesture of his hand. Looking in that direction, I saw a magnificent, very large tent. Here the tent shone from the outside, as so did the sign above the entrance. There it said, Tent of God's armor for Judge Gideon. This is a tent you have visited before. This is the Judge Gideon who defeated the Midianites and the Amalekites from this tent with the armors and weapons of mine. See Judges chapter 6. Since he completed his mission and was called by my Father into the cloud of witnesses after his death, this tent also shines from the outside. At that time, you saw so little that I needed your friend Frank to describe to you the encounter with Gideon in this tent. Jesus continued, but Gideon is not idle. He loves to forge, develop new weapons together with me in order to pass them on to the tents of the now living warriors of light, as well as yours. He is also in the council of judges that help you in the supreme heavenly court, in the hearings that take place there. Keep coming with me. This time you will see more in Gideon's tent than the first time. But that is another vision, to be continued. Thank you for watching and listening. God bless you and see you again.